Christina, tell us who you are and who you're affiliated with.
So I'm Christina Kyprianou. I'm a PhD student at UT in the Marcoms Business School. I'm in my second year, and here thanks to the Kelleher Center.
That's great. What are you studying? What's your PhD about?
So I'm studying strategy, and I have to qualify my answers by saying my research interests are still forming, but I'm particularly interested in the intentional creation of markets, especially looking at technology platforms in the music industry. So
the intentional creation of markets.
Right.
Interesting. Tell us more.
So I think in strategy we tend to think about markets as something that just exists out there, and companies have to figure out ways to take advantage of the opportunities that exist. And I think some of the platforms that exist today, especially ones that broker information between different types of customers, they structure the interaction of consumers in different ways. So they intentionally create these markets. So think of, let's say, LinkedIn, and how they created new ways for employers and job seekers to interact. And in some ways, they're sort of leveraging information asymmetries that exist in markets to create a new type of interaction, if you will. Yeah.
Well, you're going to be awfully popular with entrepreneurs who are intentionally trying to create their new markets.
Well, yeah, and my research is sort of on the verge of strategy and entrepreneurship, so I affiliate with the entrepreneurship scholars quite a bit.
And you're affiliating with the entrepreneurship scholars as it applies to the music interest of the intentional markets, or?
So the music industry is one context in which I'd like to study. I'd like to study this phenomenon, and this interest started with some of the research I did with the University of Cyprus before I joined UT, studying a music technology company in Boston, actually. And so the great thing about being in Austin is that I can get access to those kind of companies because there's so many of them here. And the type of research I want to do involves sort of participant observation, ethnographic methods of looking at how people actually do certain things. And so definitely being here in Austin is a big advantage, and the music industry is one context.
Any observations so far? I know this is in very, very, very early stages of what you're working on.
Definitely. I mean, being at South by Southwest has been a great experience in the past day and a half. Just sitting in on sessions where people talk about strategies in the sharing economy and sort of taking advantage of all of these technologies is definitely something that's giving me ideas and inspirations. So that's one form of observation. I've also been involved with a project at the Austin Technology Incubator where we actually observe companies go through the early stages of strategy formulation. So that's another source of observation. And the great thing about UT is that there are a lot of different sources where you can do that.
That's fabulous to have these talents available to you and this research base available to you.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I think one of the strengths of UT is that it has all these different sources and they are all connected to the university. So getting access to these entrepreneurial companies and talking to founders and being part of these institutions that are really helping entrepreneurship spread in Austin is, it's just a phenomenal opportunity for someone who wants to do research.
That's great. Now, you said you come from somewhere else.
Yes.
Share with me a little bit more about that.
So I'm from Cyprus, which is a small island country in the Mediterranean. I have been in the U.S. for the past 13 years, so I consider both the U.S. and Cyprus my homes. There's still a lot of things that as a foreigner, I still have to adjust to, especially in the corporate world. But I think in many ways it's an advantage. When people ask me, "Where's your accent from?" then I can, start a conversation.
Right.
So it's an interesting mix, and it's. Yeah.
Do you think it's given you a broader view as it comes to your research and what you're looking at, in terms of not being limited to any one culture?
Yeah, I think so. I think it gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more adaptability. So you have to be a lot more aware of how people relate and what it is that's important to them. It's also a good way to break the ice with entrepreneurs from other countries and other cultures. So it's, sort of being on the bridge of two different cultures is definitely opens up your, the possibilities that you have in terms of connecting with people.
And on that bridge, and if we say on that bridge we have Cyprus on one side and the US or Texas on the other, give me some comparisons of what you've seen as it applies to your early research areas, differences between the two, or indeed similarities.
It will probably be differences for the most part. Very different cultures, very different economies. Cyprus is a tiny economy, not necessarily as technologically advanced as the US, and especially with these technology platforms, most of it happens online. That's not necessarily something that occurs in Cyprus. It's such a small place. It doesn't make much sense buying things online, but it's interesting to see how maybe Cyprus would be moving in the future, and whether through my work I can add value to my own country, like maybe 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road.
Oh, I'm sure you will, and I'm sure you'll add value here locally as well with the kind of research you're doing. So, on an intentional market for the music business, is there anything that's really struck you as being fairly profound so far, or very unexpected?
Well, the interesting thing about these markets is that they leverage networks. So the more users they have, the more customers they have, the more value they're able to deliver to all of them. But to get there, they already need to have an established customer base. So there is this chicken and egg problem of attracting customers and delivering value to them. And that's what I really like to study, because it's a problem that comes on early on in a venture's life. So before they achieve that scale, they have to be able to figure out ways to attract all these customers. And I think there are all sorts of different reasons for which people join these platforms, and it's just about efficiencies and costs. There are all sorts of issues of identity and creating a sense of community, and having an impact in your community. And I think it's all these other things outside sort of the typical economic explanations that strike me as interesting research areas.
So does a community have to meet a certain size to be called a community?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't actually have the expertise on communities to answer that, but from a strategic perspective, the firm needs to sort of achieve a critical enough size to be able to leverage that community and either be profitable or continue to engage its users over a period of time.
I'm sure many of the entrepreneurs here at South by Southwest want to engage their community, and indeed as entrepreneurs become profitable.
Yes.
So I think there's going to be many people following your research as you go forward.
Well, I certainly hope so, but one day at a time.
One day at a time. So as a PhD student, what do you need to achieve what you're trying to do in the next year? Who out there can help you, and what do you need?
I think coming closer to the dissertation stage and, really clarifying exactly what my topic is. I think one of the biggest challenges is not just having the mentorship from my professors, which I already have, but figuring out how to get access to companies in the area, because the type of research that I want to do involves a lot of interaction, and not just interviews, but actually going into companies and observing how they run their meetings and how they create strategies over time. And I think to be able to develop those relationships and that trust is challenging. So having, establishing networks within, the UT community will be something that's definitely going to, make or break my dissertation.
It will definitely make your dissertation.
Yes.
So the entrepreneurs out there that can help Christina in her research of intentional markets is going to be very important. And
critical,
just
yes.
to give accreditation or credit, excuse me, to the professors that you're working with, would you care to share some of their names?
Yes, Melissa Grapner and Violina Rindova are the people that I'm working with right now, and I just absolutely love being in their team. I don't know if it's an all-women's team, and there's just this, you know, the feeling of being, you know, in a super team is actually pretty empowering. Yeah, so I have all the expertise around me that can make me successful. I just need to make sure I don't mess that up.
You won't mess that up. You will be very successful. So to the power of these three wonderful women, the professors and yourself, we wish you great success in this research.
Thank you.
And we can't wait to have you back and hear some of the outcomes. Christina, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.